Okay.
Let's see. Do we line up okay here?
You need to shrink an inch.
Did my stylist do okay? You'd shrink. What did you?
You need to shrink an inch.
Better.
You know what? Maybe I'll just sit back.
You can sit up straight, maybe.
Wait, is this? No, it's not clean. I was gonna put my water in.
No,
there.
that's.
Don't.
These are our stylish mugs, but you don't want to drink out of that one. Yeah.
I wonder if that little spider came all the way from Missouri as well.
Well, he may have.
Possible. He adds a little bit of protein to your morning mix.
Just that little extra oomph to your coffee in the morning.
Do you ever eat insects?
No, but my daughter has.
Yeah, crickets?
Yes.
I've eaten crickets.
Yes. I've sour cream and onion or something like that. They were specially flavored.
Yeah, mine were barbecue.
Yeah, hers may have been barbecue.
Yeah,
I don't recall, but I do remember her being proud of that one.
There is a thing called cricket flour. So they grind up the crickets and you use it like.
Is it gluten free? I got to guess it
I
is.
guess it would be. Yeah.
Yes. So
It's a nice
those
shot
of
of
you on the
protein in
gluten-free
there.
diet there,
Yes.
cricket flour. I'm sure it takes a lot of crickets to grind up to make a loaf of bread.
Well, and now for something completely different.
Welcome to Rockpile.
Let's see. We're on episode 3
Yes.
of our afternoons.
Afternoons with Kendra and Sam.
Yes. Hello, everybody. We're here sitting in the Boyertown Museum of Historic Vehicles Library, and I'm happy to report that after episode 3, we've already gotten some viewer feedback.
We have had multiple pieces of viewer feedback.
Which is great. We like that.
Yes,
it shows
absolutely.
that you care and you're paying attention, and we appreciate that.
Right.
So
the
give
first
us more.
piece of viewer feedback was on our lovely chairs here that are the tradition here at Boyertown. And as much as we love these chairs, we are looking for a chair sponsor. So, Lazy Boy, if you're out there, we're looking for new
Yes.
chairs.
I fancy a chaise
Ah,
or like a fainting couch.
Chaise.
Yes, that's what I fancy.
yes.
I can't have vintage 60s lawn chairs.
I'm just waiting for
Like
my
some
butt to go
French
through
parlor
this.
furniture from
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. No, the nice couch that Letterman had or something like
Yes.
that.
Yeah,
That'd be
yeah,
nice.
yeah.
Yeah.
Leather
Ooh.
or nice tufted upholstery.
Oh, tufted upholstery.
Yes.
Yeah,
Only the finest.
Seats from a car. That's
Okay,
what we need.
That would be good. So when we went to, we being some people from the museum, went to Virginia a few weeks ago to pick up a donation, and we stopped at a Burger King on the way home, and the seat was styled as if it was the back of like a 50s finned
Oh, yeah.
car, and it was, like fiberglass or whatever they're making the seat out of, but
Kind of looked like a 57 Chevy or something, yeah.
yes, it was made to look like a Bel Air type, but yeah,
Oh,
that's what we need. I need a Burger King to,
The wheels are turning.
that's right.
Just give me a second.
Come on, Burger King. Give us 2 of those fins.
You just wait. By
seats.
episode 5, we'll have better chairs. So among our
Sorry, that was one feedback, the chairs.
Yes, the chairs was number 1. Number 2 was nobody wanted to see my legs apparently, so I'm wearing pants. I had a complaint about seeing my knobby knees, so I have pants on today. You're welcome.
That's my cap to you, sir.
So letter number 3 was actually from my sister. And apparently my sister grew up for the last number of decades worried that she was more spoiled than I was. Because when my sister was 12 or 13, she got a horse. Around the same time I turned 16 and I got a car. Around the time as she turned 18 and she went to college, she got a car. So she got a horse and a car.
And a car.
And I got a car. So apparently my complaining about her getting a horse and a car, which was kind of tongue-in-cheek, she did not take as such. So for decades, my sister has been worried that she got a horse and a car. And then she watched our last episode where I talked about how new my car was.
Oh.
And she no longer feels bad about it.
Yeah.
So apparently she is mad at me now for making her feel bad for decades. My apologies to you.
Sorry, sis. That's what siblings do.
That's our whole goal in life, is to make you feel bad about something you did or did not
Or didn't do. This
Exactly.
was thrust upon you.
Doesn't even have to be your fault. No.
There's an episode of the Mary Tyler Moore Show where Rhoda's over, and then it's my favorite episode, actually. This other gentleman who, the whole gag of the whole episode is he's very short. But him and Rhoda get along really well because they both have that kind of like biting kind of humor.
Yeah.
And him and her are comparing their high school experiences and how tough it was and how they were, bullied or, whatever. And they kind of are like, oh, I bet Mary was like the homecoming queen and the cheerleading, on the cheerleader squad and dated the football captain and stuff. And she's like, well, yeah. And they're like laughing at her. And they said, I bet you even got a car for your graduation gift. She goes, I did. And then they look at each other and they just start leaving. They get up and they leave. They leave out her apartment. And Mary runs to the door and she goes, it was a Hudson. A brown Hudson. And then they come in. Oh, okay. They come back.
Yeah. Yeah, my brown Dodge.
Did you get a brown Hudson?
My brown Dodge was apparently too good for her silver Toyota, which was a great car, but it had a rust spot on the door about this big that she remembers to this day as being the one feature of that car was the rust spot. My favorite feature of the car
Factory included?
was prior to us buying it. When my father bought it used, it had these dents on the upper part of the fender in the front. And they were very odd because they weren't perfectly straight. They were kind of crinkled, and they were parallel. And I said, well, what happened here? Well, apparently the previous owner's dog chased a squirrel up into the fender, and the dog bit the car. So those are teeth marks from the dog. It's my favorite feature of that car.
You can't get that on
No, hey, my perfect
custom.
Dodge didn't have that.
Customization.
Exactly. Oh, I love that. That made it a better feature to me. So our fourth letter
Yes.
was, and I was going to bring a letter here and read it. It was good. You ever see Rosanna Dana?
Yes.
Well, I had a printout of one of her letters, and I was going to read it. But this one actually works better. So because her letters were always from a Mr. Richard Fetter of Fort Lee, New Jersey. And so this letter is from a Mr. Roger Weiler of Bedford, Pennsylvania. And he writes in and says his first car was a blue Volkswagen Dasher. I remember this car very well. We were on the track team together, and he used to drive this car, and I was very jealous of the car because I liked Dashers back then. and when he had the car, when I first saw the car, I didn't have a driver's license yet, but he had this two-door Dasher, and it was so cool that it was different. It was good looking. It was like a lighter blue.
Yeah, it's a neat color.
It was a very sharp car, and I was, in a small town where there was no Volkswagen dealership, a Volkswagen was a rarity.
Exotic, yes.
And it was a Dasher. It was the top of the line Volkswagen model, and it was so cool. I've always been jealous of your Dashers. So he drives Volkswagens to this day.
So thank you, Roger,
Yes,
for
thank you, Roger.
writing in and just twisting that knife a little more for Sam.
Yes.
We enjoyed all the feedback, so please, if you have anything you want to say about previous episodes or today's episode,
Yes,
we'd love
yes.
to hear it. And today, we're going to talk a little bit about car shows.
Car shows, yes.
Where you may see your first car on display.
If you see a Dodge Aries, 1982 Dodge Aries, two-door stick shift, please write in. Let me know what car show it was at because you won't see one. But
Or that Volkswagen.
the Volkswagen, I bet you would see more
Yeah.
than the Dodge.
Yeah.
But I was thinking about car shows and how many different kinds of car shows there are. Because we had one out here just last week, which was a cruise-in. We had the Cars and Cones show, where people just brought their cars and parked them,
Yep.
get a little ice cream, walk around the cars, see what's there. We had some great cars show up for that one.
Talk with each other.
Oh, to find out what happened with your car, how you got it. The museum brought out our Overland.
We did. Yep.
And we got, Dan and I got talking about the Overland, and another owner of a gentleman who owned a Porsche right next to the Overland. We were talking about it. Oh, what model is this, and what year is this, and how did this feature work? And
Yeah.
we were inspecting that car up and down. So we have a Overland Model 4, 1922. Kind of looks like a Model T, but a lot of cars of that level of vehicle looked like
Yeah,
that.
it has that look to it.
But it has a flathead four-cylinder. And the thing we found interesting about it was the carburetor is mounted on one side, but it seems to feed through the block and into the block from the other side. So the carburetor actually feeds straight through the block and then into the intake on the other side, which we found very interesting. But there were lots of interesting features, like the gas tank sits above the engine, so it's gravity fed into the engine.
Yes.
It was great to see these cars on display where you don't normally get to see these types of cars.
Right, and it was next to the Porsche, as you said, and then I think on the other side, we had a group of trucks.
Yeah.
And they weren't necessarily older trucks
Well, if you
I mean,
think about it, they were older.
in
They
the
were-
grand scheme of things, but it's next to a 22 Overland. It's not
Right,
that old.
no. They were like 20 to 40 years old,
Yeah.
depending on the model.
But they were lifted, they had lights,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
a lot of accessories and,
Yeah,
and
like 4 Ford owners brought their
customized-
cars in,
yeah.
the trucks in.
So we had that little Overland that was down here, and then
Yeah.
the big.
Well, the little
truck,
Porsche,
and then the little
Overland,
Porsche.
and then the trucks. It was a great
Yeah.
display of vehicles.
Then we had like an 80, what was that, an 86 Camaro?
Oh yeah, yeah,
Was that? Is
yeah.
that what the year
There
it was?
and there was a Buick and
a Ford Galaxy, which
yeah.
was gorgeous. We know that owner. We hope he'll
yes,
show up at
Please-
Duryea
please come back.
Day. That was a really nice car.
yes.
So just lots of, and a Jeep. We had
Right.
a,
So those are the kinds of cruisins we have. And
Never know what you're gonna get. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, whatever shows up, shows up. It's great. From the EV one where just all those electric vehicles showed up
Mm-hmm.
to our regular cruisins, and these are great events where you just get to meet people. You get to meet
Mm-hmm.
these owners who are very proud of their vehicles and they want to show it off and talk about it.
Yeah.
And, find out the history of the car, find out the history of that car, not only the ownership of the car, but the car itself.
yeah.
These people are usually very knowledgeable about their own products, their own vehicles.
Yeah. And a lot of them, I feel like a lot of them that go to cruisins like that too, like they do a lot of the work themselves.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
they're not necessarily pristinely restored.
But they know them inside and out.
But yeah. And they use them. They like to go cruising, so they get used.
Absolutely. Yeah, and this region is great for cruisins because
Yeah.
restaurants have them. Anyone with a decent sized parking lot that has a slow night,
Mm-hmm.
they'll have a cruising night. It's fantastic.
You'll see a lot of cars and coffee type things around here. And that's actually originally what we wanted to do, was do a cars and coffee. And then we came to the conclusion that there were so many of those
Oh, right.
that every day we were picking interfered with someone else local, and we didn't want to be a jerk and steal their thunder. So we turned it into Cars and Cones in the evening with
And-
ice cream. But it's the same principle as a Cars and Coffee.
Yeah, the ice cream was great.
I'm not going to complain about my
No,
ice cream.
No. I'm a milkshake guy,
Yes.
and it's usually vanilla or chocolate. I'm
Yeah.
just very plain. But I was talking to one of the volunteers from the museum, and he mentioned about getting a strawberry milkshake. I'm like,
Oh, I know
guess
exactly
what?
who you were
I'm
talking
getting
about.
a strawberry milkshake,
I know
and I
exactly
did,
who
and
talked
thank
to.
you because it was delicious.
I had a chocolate milkshake and it went down real nice.
Yeah, right before dinner, which is great.
Oh, yeah, I didn't need dinner.
We went out and got dinner right afterward. I'm like, okay, dessert before dinner. I like this.
Yeah, no. That's
I always
the
have
kinda-
room for dessert if
that's
it's
the
before
kind of
dinner.
life I can live. I'm fine with it. So yeah, that's one kind. It's really laid back. There's
Yeah.
really no trophies. There's no
Yep.
any kind of registration fee. You just come. You don't
Right.
have to let people know you're coming. Just pull in. You don't have to stay the whole time either.
Right.
And now, we're filming here and we're coming up very fast, probably even faster when this
Yes.
debuts on YouTube that we're coming up on the museum's own show, Duryea Day, which turns 57 this year.
Wow. It just seemed like just yesterday it was the 50th. And
Here we are.
So the Duryea Day is kind of like a cruising. You never know what's going to show up, but it is bigger. It is huge. And, and some of the most spectacular stuff comes out of the woodwork for that. I have seen so many cool cars and met so many interesting people at this show. It's Labor Day weekend, and it's a Saturday of Labor Day weekend.
Yep, always the Saturday of Labor Day weekend.
At the Boyertown Park, and it's all under a lot of it's under the trees, so it's very comfortable, very cool.
Yes.
Overflow is over into the sun, but
Yes.
get there early, get a good parking space. But the interesting stuff and the people I have met there, a gentleman brought a Stutz a few years ago, a late model Stutz.
Yeah.
It was a 75, I think, 74, 75, and he showed me all around it because this is one of those brands of cars that I've always been intrigued by.
Yeah.
But they're so rare that you never see them. They were originally sold to celebrities. Elvis had a few. Dean Martin had a couple. Things like that. Sammy Davis Jr. had one. They were at the time they were extremely expensive and extremely rare. They built I think like 200 or 300 a year.
Wow.
But when he showed the details of the car to me, I had always read about them. Like I think they're supposed to have like mink carpet. This was an expensive car. They had gold-plated everything in the interior. They had real wood interior, but it was based on a GM platform. So if you look underneath it, it's a Grand Prix or a Cadillac, depending on the model. And the hood, the bodywork is actually tacked on top of the original bodywork. So the hood weighs like double. And a General Motors hood of the 70s had springs on it. So when you put the hood up there, it would hold up itself.
That ain't holding.
The springs were not strong enough to hold it, so it also had a prop rod.
Oh my gosh.
But it was just such a big, heavy car, and it was
Sounds
such
like a beast.
it was so cool. Everything about it was just the greatest, and it was very Baroque looking because the headlights are freestanding,
Oh. Wow.
and the bodywork is just very ornate. And I think Virgil Exner designed it, and Virgil Exner designed a lot of Chrysler products in the '60s and '50s, and you can always tell his cars because they're just over the top.
Over the top.
And this one was definitely one of them. So this was the revival of the Stutz brand, and it lasted about 15 years. But these models were built from '70 until the early '80s, maybe to the mid '80s.
Wow.
But it showed up at this show, and I was just stunned to see one in person.
Stunned that it's right here. It was right here in Boyertown.
Right.
Amazing.
Yeah. If you go there, and we have a side area for trucks. Seeing an old car, seeing an old Model T or a '57 Chevy or things like that are normal for a car show. But when you get off to the side and you see a B-Series Mack truck, or you see a Divco, or one of these older trucks.
Yeah, 30s or fire trucks or
Fire trucks.
Yeah.
There's a local gentleman who has the milk trucks who brings them up, and he brought a prototype one year. It was a rear-engine prototype milk truck. It was so cool.
Yeah, yeah. All those work vehicles, like I like seeing the work vehicles too because that's what they worked. I mean, so often those things get run into the ground, or scrapped because the business, maybe it's too expensive for the business to keep it. So they get, the workhorses and they survive is just really cool to me, and I like seeing those too.
Yeah, like my first car or those trucks, they were working vehicles. They weren't meant to be collected, and most cars and trucks were not meant to be collected. But they were meant to be driven, and unfortunately at the time driven into the ground.
Yeah, used hard.
Yeah, you delivered your products, and you drove that truck until it died, and you bought another truck.
Yeah,
and to see these things restored and in almost near new condition. It's just such a great piece of history. As historians, it's great to see how they came from the factory, or in many cases are better than when they came from the factory. But when they came from the factory, and to see how they were put together, and to see how the person who was buying it in the first time saw it in the showroom or on the parking lot, wherever they did, to get it for work.
Yeah. Another cool thing about Duryea Day that I like too is we're totally fine with like modified things. So that it's a street rod or hot rod, or I remember one year we had a couple of vans.
Oh,
Like
nice.
the 1970s vans with they outfitted them, the shag carpeting and the wood paneling inside. And like, to me, that's really cool because I don't know, I can relate to it probably a little better than a Model T. Not that I don't like Model Ts or things that are that old, but when you see something like that you kind of can vaguely recall from your childhood, like that's a neat thing. And I like that those groups come because I think that there are some car shows that don't really welcome that kind
Right.
of vehicle, and we welcome it all. We don't care. It can be a brand new car,
Yeah.
even if that's what you'd like to bring. We welcome that.
Yeah.
If it's been chopped and heavily modified, that's fine. If it's totally original, that's fine too. If
Yeah.
it's been restored, we don't care. We
Duryea
like
Day
it
is
all.
great because you'll see brand new cars back to, we've had the dial there, the 14 dial. You'll see over 100 years of cars at that show. And
Yeah.
it's spectacular to see the people. Like I said, to meet the people and to hear
Yeah.
the stories is even better than just seeing a car you've never seen before. But it's great. So that show is a must. It should be on your list. Similar to that
Definitely.
are Carlisle and Hershey.
Yeah.
So these grand car shows like Carlisle and
Huge.
Hershey and other AACA events, if you've never been to these shows, Carlisle and Hershey are a combination car show and flea market. They will have tens of acres of flea market
market.
stuff. Carlisle advertises 80-some acres of the field, and in the fall and spring shows, they will be full. You cannot park. They're in the middle of the summer. They have other shows that are one-mark shows and such. And
Yeah, like GM.
yeah, there's a
Nationals,
Corvette one, there's a Ford
Chrysler.
one. But you can, on those smaller shows, you can park inside the fairgrounds. The bigger shows, there's no parking. You have to park outside. And they're just huge. They have cars for sale. The car corral is big. The
Yeah.
parts corral is huge. If you're looking for a part, chances are, if you're looking for a part for an old American car, chances are you can find that on the field. If you're looking for one for an import, you may be able to find it, or at least find someone who has
Who
it.
knows someone that has it?
Yes, it's a great place to shop if you're restoring a car, if you're buying a car, and I've been going there for 30 years. The car corral is my favorite. It's just, again, some weird stuff shows up. It's stuff that they want to get the biggest dollar for, so that it'll show up there, because parking in front of a used car lot's not going to get you money for some
No.
obscure model or
No.
brand.
You
And
need to go to the people that appreciate obscure.
yeah, and my
Models.
friend and I will split up and go across the field and look at different things from across
Yeah.
the field. But we have sign language across the field to each other. So I'll see a car way over here, and I'll leave him and go over to the other side and see the car. And from across the way, I'll see the price on the car, and I'll give him a sign like they're smoking crack. It's my favorite one. You just look like this, like, oh, is that high?
Too high.
Oh, it's way too high. Yeah. That's a $5,000 car. They want $35,000 worth of. Yeah, they're off the rocker.
And those are multiple day shows, and partially
Usually Wednesday to Saturday.
Yeah, and that's a good thing because you can't do
Mm,
the
no.
whole show in one day.
No, we walk around Hershey, and Hershey has acres and acres of flea market space.
Yeah.
And it's just fantastic to walk around and get all that, take all that in.
It's massive.
Absolutely, fantastic.
Yeah.
So yeah, but the the Hershey show is a flea market and the AACA fall event. So you see some of the most fantastic fantastic cars there. Hundreds of cars will show up for that one. And there've been times where I'm walking around that field looking for somebody, and I knew a guy who restored a car that I was looking for. I'm like, oh, I wonder where he is. And as we're walking along, I see this crowd. I'm like, oh, I bet you that's where he is. And there was a huge crowd around this one car to the point where you couldn't see the car. And I walk up, and, of course, that's the car I'm looking for. But yeah,
I always like at Hershey, I guess that's the car corral during the flea market days where it's parked along. You can kind of like walk
Oh.
over it, and you just look down, and it's just
Yeah, they park the cars along the.
So neat looking.
If you've ever been to Hershey, to the park, there's the driveway into the park is lined with cars for sale. And some of those are lined up by a vendor who's selling cars. And so there are all these immaculately restored or restorable, sometimes interesting restorable older car. There's one car that had like a 16-liter engine or something. It was some old race car. It was
Wow.
big car. And it was there for years because they wanted hundreds of thousands of dollars for this car.
Oh my gosh.
But it was like I said, the weird stuff shows up.
But it's just a neat place because there's certain vantage points where you can just sort of try to appreciate the depth of this of this show. I haven't been to the October Carlisle. I was at Carlisle once, but it was not that one.
Oh no, we got to go to that.
But yeah, I should.
Carlisle and/or Hershey inevitably rains when I'm there.
Yeah. I have spent some rainy and very cold and also unseasonably warm days at Hershey.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know if I've had a good crisp fall day.
They've
happened.
Yeah.
But they're always in the day that I don't go up. But I've been up there in the pouring rain, and I've been up there when I thought I was going to freeze.
Similar to those shows are the McCungy show at Das Ostfest, which was just last weekend. And so I took my daughter and her significant other to the show, and she reminisced about when I took them to their first car show. I took my daughters to Carlisle or Hershey when they were really little. We brought a little red wagon, put them in there. They had to be 3 or 4 or something, and I gave them a camera and said, "Do what you want." So I have these views from knee height, looking up at everything. But they had a great time, and all my kids have enjoyed going to those shows because there are other things to see, especially at Carlisle, where they will have a lot of vendors selling miscellaneous stuff.
Yeah.
Some stands become miscellaneous flea markets.
Yeah.
And I've purchased some weird things there. We found a burned out Lamborghini one time. Literally, there was no body left on it. It had the frame and the parts of the engine were melted. The wheels had melted away. I have no idea how hot this fire was, but it was very hot, and everything had melted away on this car.
Well, I wonder what happened to that.
I can remember seeing that thing there with melted valve covers on the engine, but you could still see Lamborghini on the engine. Like, man,
I would be tempted to buy something like that.
Because
why not?
No, you always are.
Who else is going to have one?
when you see something like that, you're like, oh, that's so great, but what am I going to do with it? And where am I going to put it? And how am I going to get it home?
When I was at Hershey last year, it's almost a year ago now. Ooh, we're getting close to Hershey. I remember walking through to our spot. We have a table there. The museum has a table there. And that day, the sun was out. That was one of the unseasonable. I think that was the unseasonably warm day. I was there. And I got this like a reflection, the sun reflecting off of something. And I looked over, and here's this trailer filled with Sinclair dinosaurs.
Wow. Just the plastic dinosaurs?
Yeah. Well, I guess they were metal.
Okay.
Because they were
Yeah.
just like 6 of them in this trailer. And it was like, I want one of those. Don't have a way to get it home.
Was it that big?
Not in my little Honda. It wasn't going home with me. I really wanted that. I just put this in my front lawn because who else is going to have one of these dinosaurs in their front lawn?
Yes. If I ran across that, I would get that in.
There's part of me that's like, this year I should take my minivan, and if he's there this year, I should really try to get one because it's too cool.
So if you're at Hershey or Carlisle this year, we may be there. Just warning you.
Look for us.
Look for us. Yeah. We will stop for autographs.
Yes.
So,
we won't charge too much.
No, not too much. But the step up from that even are Concours events.
Yes.
And
You're modeling?
My modeling, my volunteer shirt from the Elegance in Hershey. So I've worked a few shows. I've judged a few shows. Concours events are the top. These are the nicest cars you'll ever see at a car show. They are typically invite only. You
Yeah,
can't just,
you will be contacted to bring your car.
right. You can sign up for a car, but you have to go through the reviewing process. So there will be a panel of people who say, that car's good enough, this car's not what we need for this year. Sometimes there are themes. Sometimes it's just, we need to fill in this field with beautiful cars of a particular era. I sit on the board of the Radnor Hunt Club Concours, and this year we're doing Lincoln Continental Marks, the Mark II, Mark III, Mark IV, Mark V. We're doing BMW Z7 and 328, and we're doing HRG, which is a racing brand.
Yeah, I just heard about that the other day. What's HRG?
Yeah, well, that was the thing.
Yeah.
I edit the program,
Yeah.
and so I had to find experts in each of these fields to write each of the stories. And I found HRG experts and found that HRG was in production for 20 years, and they built just over 200 cars. So we're going to have one of the biggest displays of HRGs anywhere in the world at the show.
Yeah.
And the same with 328s. There were very few of those built, but we're going to have some of the best on display there for that.
And the other thing about concours is, we were talking a little bit about an AACA show, which, they have certain standards for judging. And then a concours show, its judging standards are very different.
Very.
Than what you would see at an AACA show. Because it's more about the aesthetics, if I'm correct, right?
Right,
It's not
yeah.
necessarily, is this car accurate?
There are different levels of concours events, and AACA is brutal.
Yeah.
They want to make sure that everything is right.
Yeah.
And I have judging friends who know so much about every car, and they will complain about this thing being wrong, this clamp being wrong, this paint being wrong, that they didn't come in that color that year, and different things like that. And the judging of a concours is typically, French rules judging is what you like. So the judges will get together and decide, this is the better restored car, this is the better unrestored car, this is more like how it came from the factory. And it's great to have the experts in each of those fields. My teams have always been filled with some of the brightest people and most knowledgeable car people. I've judged everything from muscle cars to old cars to Corvettes to everything, and you learn so much by judging these cars to find out that the cars are over-restored in many cases and precisely restored to my annoyance sometimes. Because in some cases, these cars are restored to a level that they should not have been restored to. If there are factory mistakes, some of these people will restore the factory mistake
Out.
into the car.
Yeah.
No, into the car.
Oh.
Yes. Out of the car would make sense to me that, this day the guy oversprayed something on something else, so you want to clean that up. No, that's not how they are. In some cases, that overspray is what they want in. Corvette people are among the worst. There's a whole group of there's a restoration group of Corvette restorers, and they are so precise about how they restore things. I was told a story one time where a guy brought a car to a show, and the show says that the cars have to be displayed as delivered to the dealer.
Okay.
And you and me would think that would be clean, unmodified, things
Yeah.
like that. He took it to the step that the wheels originally came in the trunk.
Oh, jeez.
And they said, well, where are the wheels? Well, they're in the trunk because
the
that's
trunk.
how it was delivered to the dealer. Like, that is taking it one step too far, That might be the letter of the law, but that's not what you meant.
No offense to all our Corvette
Nope.
owners that are watching.
Nope. Nope. I will say the same things to you in person, trust me. But these concours events are fantastic. Some of the stuff is so beautiful and so rare.
Yeah.
Our terrain has been to a couple shows, and it is a stunning car. One existing right now,
Yeah,
right?
well, that's all we know of.
Yeah. It was built in Philadelphia. Our terrain is 1917?
14.
14. It was built in Philadelphia. It was a luxury car of that time. And
Yeah.
to see this car today, it's a touring car. It's open. and
It's
it
a
is
nice car.
just beautifully restored.
It's a nice car.
We've had it 2 years now.
That sounds about right. Yeah, yep.
But if you come to the museum, make sure you see the terrain, because it is such a pretty car. And
Definitely.
it is show quality.
Yeah, oh yeah, easy. Easy.
Yep. So my Elegance at Hershey was one of my favorite shows. It was world class. I worked loading cars onto the field and taking cars off the field. So it was my job. I was the last person to see a car before it went across the reviewing stand. And I talked to every owner as they came across.
Oh, that's fun though.
So right before they're
Yeah.
ready to go, I'm just trying to pass the time because they're waiting for the previous car to go. And our friend Bill Rothenell would talk about each car as it would come across and tell what it won. And then I would talk to the owners right before they would go across the reviewing stand. And almost to the person, this is our favorite show. We love coming here. We're treated so well. And the show unfortunately ran out of money a few years ago. But it was a great charity show. A lot of these car shows are charity shows. And this one was for juvenile diabetes. And I really appreciate donating my time to a show that donates money to some cause that I like.
Yeah.
And so I miss this show because I miss the people and the people I've met, the cars I've seen, the stories I came home with, and the cars I've seen.
Yeah.
I mean, these cars are rare in many cases.
Yeah. It always amazes me what is still out there, what people have tucked away
Yeah.
in their sheds or in their barns or garages. And
Garage
to-
mahals.
Yeah, garage mahals. And
Yes.
to bring it full circle, like even you mentioned Cars and Cones the other week, I think I maybe recognized 3 cars that came to that.
As having seen them before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And out of all the Duryea days I've been to, out of last year's Cars and Cones, and just the shows that we go to, the museum, whether it's Das Fest or the McCungy Truck Show, or, we were at New Hope a few times. I didn't recognize any of those people,
Right,
which is
yeah.
so cool. There's still people out there
Right.
that you think you would. You almost think like after all this time you've seen and heard it all.
Yeah, go to enough shows, you expect
haven't.
to have the same ones show up
Yep.
every time, and they don't. They're new ones every time.
Yeah.
It's fantastic, yeah. I will run across people I see. I will run across a car or two that I've seen before, but the weird and wild and beautiful stuff that shows up that you've never seen before is worth the trip.
Very
It's worth the $5 or $10 or $15 or whatever it costs to get into these smaller shows to see something like that.
Yeah.
And the bigger shows, the ones that cost you more money, are usually for charity. So
Yeah.
so donate.
Yeah.
So great. Yeah.
We better see you all.
Yes.
At Duryea Day on September 2nd.
Be there during Duryea Day. We'll be there.
We'll be there. Find us. Say hi. We'd love to hear from you. So contact us. You can send us an email, mail, M-A-I-L, at boyertownmuseum.org. We'd love to hear from you. Send us a picture of a cool car show you were at,
Yep.
or your car sitting at a car show.
Absolutely.
And
Invitation to a car show you're going to.
yes,
Yeah.
or you can email us
Yep.
some nice French parlor furniture that you're willing to donate to the cause.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. And definitely come by the museum because we have a collection of cars you will not see anywhere else.
Very true.
Yeah.
Very true.
So until
right.
next time,
Until next time, thanks for spending the afternoon with us.
take care.
Bye.
Bye.